Improvised Canine here, guys. And for you guys out there who into grappling, MMA, you know, BJJ, wrestling, you guys see the title of this video. I'm about to expose some information, um, some not very well known information among some people, uh, amongst the people that know they know, and sit back, you know, and learn some history about the Gracie family, aka some of the biggest liars in the martial arts world. So, um, to BJJ's credit, let's BJJ is the fastest growing, most effective martial art out there today. It's widely available to learn. The most effective martial art in terms of grappling that you could find a BJJ school almost anywhere nowadays. You could be in the middle of fucking Alaska and find a BJJ school. So, um, but where is you may be asking me, improvise. Where did BJJ lie at? Where did BJJ? Uh, where did they? You know, um, I'm not understanding what you're saying here. Well, you guys are very astute, and I will break it down to you. So, if you look at BJJ's marketing nowadays, they try to market this thing to you like they somehow created submission grappling. Okay, they also try to make it seem to you that uh if you're fucking 5'5" and 120 pounds, if you come in and you learn jujitsu, you're gonna beat the guy up who's 6'6", 250. Um, and I'm gonna break it down to you how these guys are liars. So, first and foremost, let's get it out of the way with the size variant, right? Historically, a lot of these Gracies, okay, most of all of them, they're not small dudes, okay? They try to make it like uh Hoist Gracie, okay, when he fought in UFC 1 was a small dude. Hoist Gracie is like like 6'2", 6'3", 100, he was like 180 pounds. That's not small. I don't know what small is to you guys' standard, but that's not small. You could say, well, I guess he was small compared to Ken Shamrock at the time, who at the time um, uh, when he first fought, uh, Hoist, he didn't really know any submission grappling. Then he went to go train under, Gotch and Funaki in catch wrestling. Came back, pounded his face in without even, really just stayed in guard and just, you know, cut him open. For 25 minutes. They just called it a draw after that, and Ken won that fight. But yeah, another match, Kimura and Alio. A lot of times you'll hear that Kimura outweighed Alio by 40 pounds, and then they say, oh, it was 80 pounds. It was maybe a 10 pound weight difference. Okay, 10, 10 at most 15 pounds. It was not freaking 40, 80 pounds. Okay, what it was is why was Alio getting thrown around at like a rag doll is because Kimura was a judo champion. Okay, uh, and Alio's stand up, um, you know, judo slash wrestling game sucked. You know, all he wanted to do was fall on his back and not learn the complete whole recipe of grappling. He just wanted to fall on his back and try to, go for submissions, leg locks and arm locks, joint joint manipulations on the ground instead of standing up, taking your opponent to the ground and getting them to your desirable position. And how do you learn to control one's body? By, you know, putting in a position that you want to be in to get your submissions. Well, you got to learn how to wrestle. You got to learn judo. You got to learn, you got to learn how to take your opponent to the ground. You can't just fall to your back. So that's where he fell there. Um, and you know, again, uh, let's dive into what is the oldest form of grappling. What is the oldest form of submission grappling? Well, it's the oldest sport in the world, wrestling. Wrestling has been around literally since the dawn of time. Since man picked up a rock, they wrestled. So, um, in Roman Colosseum wrestling, had submissions in it. You know, Greek style, wrestling before anything had submissions in it. And going so off and forward before it, became catch as catch can. It already had submissions in it. So hundreds of years, there were submissions in wrestling. Uh, Really, in the turn point of like the 20th century is when they changed the rule. Okay, because they took submissions out. But you know, like 1920s, 1930s, catch wrestling was still there. So all the Gracies really did was bring it back, but with a bunch of watered down techniques. A lot of the submissions in catch wrestling that you'll see that guys like Josh Barnett, Minoru Suzuki, the Gracie Killer, Sakuraba. We'll get to talk to him in a little bit. They have stuff, neck cranks, joint locks. That a lot of these guys, crooked head scissors. You won't even. A lot of BJJ guys won't even know what the fuck it is. Now, granted, I myself, you know, um, I compete in MMA competitions. Um, I'm not the I'm not a submission guy at all, but I do know history of. I do study a lot of history of this stuff, and I remember I was over in New York, and I had I was competing. This was like a few months ago. Okay, and a guy named Brandon Shuey, who used to he's a Strike Force veteran. Um, he got his black belt. Uh, I think he got it under either Renzo or one of the guys. I mean, he's originally from California. He moved out to um, he moved out to Idaho. Like, you think he's in Boise? No, maybe he's not in Boise. I don't know where he's at actually. He's somewhere out in the Midwest. It's not. Yeah, he's in Idaho. Um. Anyways, I showed him this technique called the gravit. The gravit is where it's just a front. It's a front. Cross face. It's a cross face headlock. It's a neck crank. And I was like, if dudes did this in the MMA, and if dudes knew how to implement this a lot more, I think they would get a lot, instead of going for a guillotine where you're just choking like this, in that position. Even though there's a lot of other variations of the guillotine where you get it real tight under the neck, but we're talking about a neck crank here. So if you get that neck crank in, and I showed him it, he was like, "Yeah, that makes sense." And this is a guy who's a black belt. This is a guy who's been doing jujitsu for over 20 years. And he said he's never seen that technique. So, you know, and if I get a chance to work with, Brandon Shuey again, I would love to go out there, of course, and learn. Because he knows way more shit about grappling than I do. I'm not saying that I know more about grappling. I'm just saying that, there's techniques that don't exist in BJJ. Because BJJ literally just takes shit from. If you notice what BJJ is, They take shit from other arts and they put it in there. That's all. That's what they've been doing. Okay, so a lot of the shit that they learned, like if you go all the way, if you go back in time from when there was George Gracie, Elio Gracie, okay, Masi Hikamura, and their teacher Mitsu Maeda, okay, he trained in catch wrestling. So a lot of the techniques they learned was catch wrestling. Okay, Elio was just, he just wanted. I mean, he didn't want. They say he had some type of condition or whatever, and he didn't want to really learn the takedowns and all that shit. So, and understand, guys, that a lot of that stuff that they're saying, it's a ton of bullshit. So he had a condition, right? So he had a condition when you're telling me he couldn't stand up, he couldn't walk up a flight of stairs, he'd pass out walking up a flight of stairs, but he could fight a guy for an hour. That is the most bullshit story ever, bro. It sounds like to me is that he wanted to learn half the technique, half the technique, um, and didn't want to learn the takedowns, didn't want to learn the how to get to that position because it was too difficult for him. And he just came up with his own innovative way of laying on his back and getting submissions off his back. Even though you see in modern day MMA that shit doesn't work because anytime a guy's laying on their back now, for the whole entire fight, what happens in MMA? They end up losing on points because you're just sitting there doing nothing but taking a pounding. You know, um, maybe at the time period where he was fighting, where nobody understood submissions, you know, yeah, sure, you could lay on your back all day, but you know, um, 2023, that Gracie old school style of fighting doesn't work. It doesn't work. You saw just past fight with one of the Gracies. What was I don't know his name. Fucking Kron Gracie. Okay, I remember when he fought Colin Swanson too. He embarrassed himself. Wasn't going for no takedowns. Wasn't going for nothing. Just would get punched in the face and then lay on his back. You know, and there's a ton of other stories I can get into. Talk about Kazushi Sakuraba. How much of a doozy was that? We can go back to Pride. You know, old school Japanese MMA. Kazushi Sakuraba trained directly under Billy Robinson. Okay, now Billy Robinson is a guy, old school catch wrestler from England. Okay, that trains a lot of the guys that I associate. He trained a lot of the guys I associate with. Okay, Joel Bain from up in New Jersey. He trained under Billy Robinson. Jake Shannon, who is the head leader of Scientific Wrestling, trained for years. Was the head assistant coach with Billy Robinson. And it's a lot of other people. Sam Crescent, he's actually a third degree black belt in BJJ. Trained for years with Billy Robinson. So, but Sakuraba trained directly under him. Okay, he originally wanted to become a pro wrestler, and pro wrestling at the time, was falling under. You know, a lot of these guys who were training catch back in the day in Japan, and that's why I think catch never really caught a whole break. They went more of the entertainment route than rather than the learning it for self defense route like the Gracies took it. And that's why I really fall under it because Catch Can is actually the grandfather of professional wrestling. Okay, professional wrestling matches used to just be catch wrestling matches, you know, um, and uh, it didn't catch a big break like that. So when they made that hybrid style pancrase is what they called it, you know, that was a little bit more entertainment to people. and with the open hand palm striking, because it's like, okay, well, you know, now we're getting into the true roots of what this stuff used to be back, you know, ancient times. And then, of course, MMA came into scene where it's just like, now they have the gloves, they're full on, punching, we have, full contact, no, no holds barred kind of thing. And uh, it was a perfect opportunity for the Gracies, over in the States to do it because nobody, especially with the UFC one, they purposely chose no grapplers, no submission guys to go in that, Um, but they found a lot of trouble when they came over to Japan because they knew a lot of the guys were catch guys, and they knew exactly what they were doing. So they stayed away from that as long as they could until they ran into Sakuraba. Uh, Gracie's, wanted to keep making up their own rules, like they can wear a gi or he can't wear this, you know, oh he can't wear shoes. Just a bunch of bullshit, just a bunch of bullshit, just to, and honestly, they've been doing that for years, you know, and I don't really care if I'm offending any of the Gracie Jiu Jitsu guys. I don't give a fuck because at the end of the day, it's the truth. You guys, you don't have to believe what I'm saying. Go ahead and do your own research on all the guys I'm telling you about. Research Billy Robinson, research, all these events that would happen, and then just puzzle it piece to piece. Don't just listen to what they're telling you, because the Gracies are going to literally, you got to remember, they literally run the biggest, you know, martial arts program pretty much modern day in the United States. So they're gonna feed you a goddamn lie. Okay, and I'm not saying that jiu-jitsu isn't effective, man. If you got a place to go roll at, locally, go roll. Have fun. I mean, I'm not, I love jiu-jitsu. I've actually met uh, uh, two of the Gracies. I've met Renzo Gracie. I've met I've met uh, uh, Royce Gracie at a Bellator event. I talked to him for about 10 minutes, whatnot. But yes, they're nice people and what all. But I mean, they'll feed you lies about the history of it because you got to understand they're running a business, and uh, you don't got to take it from me. You do your own research, but that's a brief history on the Gracies, and how, I know I had to throw catch wrestling in there. I'll do a breakdown of catch wrestling and show you where those two kind of, teeter-totted back in the 20th century. But for now, like, comment, share, subscribe. Enjoy your day.